All right, welcome to episode 49 of 1530. Today we're going to talk about the U.S. Open, 2022 U.S. Open just concluded recently, and Carlos Alcaraz came out a winner. So we want to talk about what that means for tennis. He's only 19. There's a lot of stats we're going to talk about, a lot of firsts for him. It was a pretty amazing run that he had to the final. But we also are going to talk a little bit about a little preview for an upcoming episode, talk about Roger Federer and the big news that he shared with the tennis world. So we'll go ahead and get started with the stat of the day. So the stat of the day is 19. So Carlos Alcaraz is 19 years of age. He's the youngest ever world number one for men's tennis. And he is 3-0 in finals at significant events, defined as slams and Masters 1000s, ATP finals. So he has one slam under his belt now, and he has won two Masters 1000s, one on hard court, one on clay. He's 6-2 in finals in all ATP events, which is pretty amazing. And Casper Ruud has been his opponent at both hard court events. So this year, Alcaraz won the Miami Masters, which is a Masters 1000, and beat Casper Ruud there. And of course, at the U.S. Open, it just concluded he beat Casper Ruud in 4 sets. So, I mean, a lot of superlatives there. Alcaraz just there's so much praise being heaped on him as such a young player, and he seems really hungry. And he's doing really good in finals. Pretty much every final he's gone, and he's almost won. I think there was one Masters 250 and one 500. He did not win when he made the finals, but super great level from this kid. It was fun to watch. He became a very, very instant fan favorite at the U.S. Open. U.S. Open, of course, known for kind of an intense crowd that really, really likes the flair. They embraced Del Potro on his run in 2009 against Federer, who had won 5 in a row U.S. Opens, but they got behind Del Potro because he just had such a great game. And kind of same with Alcaraz. The crowd really got behind Alcaraz. They also love Tiafoe. We'll talk about Francis Tiafoe. He had a big U.S. Open. But Matt, any thoughts on Carlitos Alcaraz becoming world number one?
I think it's fantastic. Whatever Rafa did to make himself so dominant, he, I guess, is keeping it in the Spaniard family, passing it down to Alcaraz.
Yeah. Seriously.
No, it's fantastic. It's great to see. I mean, we skipped 3 generations, but we've got some legitimate talent coming up. And I don't think it's just because the big 3 are getting old and retiring. I think Alcaraz and Sinner and some of these other big names could put up a legitimate fight with the big 3, even in their prime. And obviously, right now they're doing good things.
Right. I mean, Alcaraz even said that in one of the post conferences or press conferences. Sorry, he said, I want to play Federer. This is before Federer, of course, announced his retirement from tennis. That the Laver Cup this week will be his last event. He will no longer play any more competitive ATP matches. But it was interesting because Alcaraz said, I want to play Federer. Federer was actually, when he was growing up, that was his favorite player. It wasn't actually Nadal, which that would have been an easy thought going to the Rafa's Academy and being a Spaniard. But he really likes the game style, match style of Federer. But he'll never get a chance to play him competitively, I don't think. So, but Alcaraz, he's beaten Djokovic. He's beaten Nadal this year. That was kind of a coming out party that he had, right? So he won the Miami Masters, didn't have to really play anyone huge. But I think it was the Madrid Masters where he had to go through all those top guys. He beat Djokovic, beat Nadal on clay in 3. I think both are 3 sets. But that was kind of a coming out party where this kid can game. Can he game at the Grand Slam at the highest levels of the sport? And he showed that he can. But he's such an amazing player, so hungry, and like you're saying, almost like we skipped a couple generations, right? Like the generation of Raonic and Nishikori, they never really saw a slam. Now you're at Zverev. He was 1 set away, the 2020 U.S. Open from a slam. Tsitsipas, you're kind of jumping that generation to the even younger one, which is crazy. But super fun to see new blood in tennis, and just his game his game style is so unique. We'll talk about that more as we cover the stats, but it's such an interesting blend of really, the spin of Rafa, the net game of Federer, the touch, of someone like Murray with an amazing drop shot. I mean, Alcaraz really is the complete package, right? I mean, I'm sure he can get better and he will get better, but he's got a really fun game style. I think he's very, very fun to watch. But
agreed. And like you said, he is very young. I feel like one of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Key aspects, key traits that the big three had is their ability to continue to improve their game, even when they're on top of the game. And it was insane. I mean, you watch Federer win slam after slam after slam, and then you, as you're watching him continue to play better and better and better. It's like, is there a limit? So the question will be, is where I'm going with this is, can Alcaraz create that same magic? Can he, he's at the top now at the age of 19 with the slam under his belt. Can he continue to improve and play consistently the way that they have, and replicate a little bit what they've had, the success they've had?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. If you want to stay at the top, you need to get better, right? If you're not getting better, you're not going to stay at the top. That's just the reality of the game. There's always people that are hungry, and the other players are getting better. They're trying different tactics. I mean, we can see that now with Nick Kyrgios being so hungry after the Wimbledon. I think that was something he said at the U.S. Open. He said, "I'm surprised how hungry I am because I almost tasted, victory." He's like, maybe if I would have won Wimbledon, I wouldn't feel that way. But he's like, I was so close. I know I have the level. And he played amazing. He beat Medvedev again. Medvedev can't really figure out how to beat Nick, when Nick is on. It's so Nick Kyrgios had a pretty good run. He lost to Khachanov in a 5-setter. So still amazing, but it's just crazy.
Yeah. If he's truly hungry, then he's got to work on his physio. Because I think he was feeling it a little bit.
Yeah.
In that game against Khachanov. I think that's part of it. 2 weeks is a lot of tennis. It's a lot of high intensity. So
yeah, so it'll be interesting to see him going forward. Medvedev, I mean, there was a while, if you would have asked me, because Medvedev won the U.S. Open so convincingly, he had been to the Australian Open final a couple years in a row. And if you would have asked me, even in January, Australian Open, oh yeah, Medvedev for sure, hardcourt king. And he was, he was very, very close to beating Nadal, and embarrassing Nadal, right? In the straight sets, pretty convincingly. Of course, Nadal came back somehow and won in 5. And all of a sudden now Medvedev, doesn't. I mean, he's still amazing on hardcourt, but doesn't have a stranglehold on it. Arguably even better on hardcourt than Djokovic. But so now it's to me it's not that crazy that U.S. Open is again the one where someone can break through. Del Potro, you had Dominic Thiem, you had Medvedev. It's easier to steal the one in New York when it's hardcourt. It's at the end of the season when everyone's tired, injured. But with no Roger around, it's clearly Novak at Wimbledon. Who knows? Maybe Berrettini could have made some noise had he not been, had COVID, and maybe some of the Russians. Medvedev's gotten a lot better on grass, but they were banned this year from Wimbledon. But really, it just seems like it's Djokovic's to lose. French Open, got to say Nadal, if he's healthy, it's kind of his to lose as well. So then you have between the Australian and U.S. Open, that's your best chance for a young gun. So it'll be really interesting at this Australian Open, see who can bring it. If Djokovic is allowed to play, he would probably be the favorite because he's won there so many times. But if he's banned again, I mean, I don't necessarily see Nadal, winning that one again. It's a pretty hard one for him to win. So I don't know. It seems like the hardcourt events are easier for these guys to break through. But I will say Alcaraz on clay is pretty scary. Zverev beat him in the quarterfinals this year of Roland Garros, but that would be a great match to see him and Rafa battling on the clay.
Yeah,
at Roland Garros.
Yeah, if you ask my honest opinion, I think that Rafa's not far behind Roger.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the end of this season, and I mean, the guy can't get through a match without tearing a muscle in his abdomen. It's like, what the heck? So as willing as his spirit is, I think his body's starting. Well, I mean, it has been for a long time. It's incredible what he's played through, but I think he's finally getting to the point where it's just too difficult.
Yeah, and at some point, like you're saying, I mean, and he does this because he loves,
Right.
he loves the game so much. Remember, he talked about the injections that he was playing with at Roland Garros, but
Right.
he's like, I wouldn't do it for any other tournament. There's only so much you're willing to do to play at that high level, and then even then, it's almost not worth it at the end of the day.
Right.
He's even talked about how, he was saying some interesting things at the press conference of the US Open, like, his wife is pregnant, and he has made
Right.
comments before about when he has children, he wants to step away from the game and have a new phase of life,
Yeah.
move on and do other things and have a family. So I don't know if that's this season, or if it's, Roland Garros he retires. I'm not sure. What you're saying with him physically and with him, the comments he's made about his family and with his wife is currently pregnant. I do think that window is shrinking, not for him to win. I think he could continue to compete, especially at Roland Garros, but if he
True.
wants to, and if his body is, because he's probably fighting something at every tournament now with his age and his
Right.
style. So like you're saying, to your point, I do think he'll want to exit the game on top and on his terms and not being completely broken down. So again, I don't
Yeah,
know
I
if
agree with
that's
that too.
Roland Garros, or honestly, if he retired at the Australian Open or start of the season, and he doesn't want to do the farewell tour, his comments made it where it could be open to interpretation. That's something he could do. He left it open to that, I think. But obviously the greats, let them decide the way they want to exit. That's not for us to tell them what to do. It's just trying to predict and see,
Right.
is Roland Garros going to be wide open this next year, or is Nadal going to make another go,
Right. And that's where you hope that Alcaraz and these other players can really step up, because the last thing I want is for Djokovic to be the only one that fills the void. It's like,
right?
Oh man.
We don't need to remind listeners, right? It's 22 titles for Nadal, 21 for Djokovic, 20 for Federer. And Federer's looks like it's set in stone forever, which it probably was going to be anyways, even with the farewell tour. But
Yeah.
if Nadal stays in it, he can win some more French Opens. Djokovic, if the new, I won't even call him next gen anymore, but if Alcaraz and some of these other players that are asserting their dominance don't go away, they could win some titles too. Casper Ruud, I mean, we should do an episode on him. He's been such an improved player. He made 2 slam finals this year. He went from just being a clay court specialist to being really, really dominant on hard court. His game has really, really improved. And he actually had good chances to get back into that final. Never really quite got back into it enough to challenge Alcaraz, but he definitely made it a final. So I think there's a lot of players that can take it to whoever's lasting, whoever decides to stick around. If it's Nadal and Djokovic, I think there's players that can challenge them.
Yep. Agreed.
But let's jump real quick into the stats and kind of cover that. So let's look here at the final. So one comment I want to make about Alcaraz. So looking at the stats from the whole final, or from every match he played in the US Open, he didn't have any aces. He didn't ever have double-digit aces in any match. Even some of the 5-setters, like against Cilic, he had several 5-setters. Tiafoe, Sinner, he never had above like 8 aces. But in the final, he really upped his game and had 14 aces, and only 3 double faults. So it's almost like his serving just got kind of better and better as he went on. But again, his serve is very effective, very, spinny. I would say, it's when he was averaging some first serves, in the 115s, something like that. But he places it really well. He finds his spots. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a Federer spot serving, similar speed, but he probably has more spin. So in that way, it's similar to Nadal's serve, but maybe a little faster. So it's usually not an acing serve, you would say, but he dialed it in the final, which really helped him. Casper only had 4 aces to Alcaraz's 14, which really helped him. He won 74% of his first serve points to Casper's 66%. Second serve, this is one where it's interesting. The battle of the second serve points. Alcaraz actually wasn't as good as Ruud. He won 51%, and Ruud won 65% on his second serve. But overall, net points this is another thing I love about Alcaraz. So he went to net 45 times and won 34 of those points. for a 76% win rate at net. So sometimes you see the 76% and it's something like Nadal where you go 10 times and you win, 7 or 8 of those points, which is great. But Alcaraz is going, 45 times to net. This is in 4 sets. That's quite a bit. That's like a number that you'd see on one of these big servers like Isner or someone that goes to net a lot. So it's cool to see that Alcaraz, he's not afraid of going to the net. He's very effective at finishing there, has very good hands. Like I said, makes it pretty fun to watch because sometimes you're not used to seeing, someone that has such a good baseline game also complement that with finishing points at the net. Break points were comparable here, though. And this is where I see one of his weaknesses in some of the matches that Alcaraz has played. He's been up in matches, but he's not able to put away people like Tiafoe, where he was serving for 4 sets or was trying to push it and win in 4 sets. Instead, it got pushed to 5. So he won only 3 out of 11 break points, and Ruud won 3 out of 10. This is something where I've seen his break point ratio not be as good. And maybe we'll see that improve as he figures out these bigger moments. But again, with his talent, he's still won the US Open. So no knock on him. Overall, receiving points were very similar, 34% each. So, and overall, he only won 5 more points than Casper Ruud did. So 127 to 122. Like I said, I think Ruud really went in and made it more of a fight. Overall distance covered per point. It's an interesting stat. 52 feet for each person per point. Now that's a ton if you look at any other comparison matches. A lot of them are in the 40s. But I did look at the one where I remember Medvedev and Nadal covering so much court in 2019 at the US Open. Theirs was about 60 feet per point. So not quite Nadal and Medvedev-esque, but these guys were moving all around the court, making each other really work for the points. And it was overall a pretty high quality final. I don't know if you have any comments on that, Matt, on the final.
No, I think he covered them all. Yep. It is interesting to see his break point conversion rather.
Yeah.
To be so low.
It looks like it was better against Tiafoe. It was 9 out of 20, 45%. What was the one? I think it might have been Sinner where it was really low. But to Sinner's credit, he's a very high pardon me. He's a pretty high risk player. He likes to go for the for the first strike tennis. So a lot of times he would serve really big and then hit a big forehander backhand for a winner. So he was saving quite a few break points, but it was also Alcaraz is missing a lot of opportunities. So it looks like against Sinner, his break point ratio was 11 out of 26. So what is that? That's definitely less than 50%.
Right.
Looks like that's 42%. So not horrible, but again, he's having a lot of opportunities that are kind of wasting there. 6 out of 18, so 33% against Marin Cilic. That went 5 sets. Again, it seems like even with his talent, if he dials in those break point chances and knows when to go for it, or when to play it safer to try to convert more break points, I think that will really benefit him, because that was just one thing I noticed from the stats. Quick look at it that he could have definitely done better on. Let's see. I guess while we're looking at the Sinner match, that was a pretty dynamic one. If you're looking for great highlights, great quality, both players are young and very talented. Alcaraz, I think, actually has a negative head-to-head. Jannik Sinner's won more matches against him, and he beat him at Wimbledon this year. But I think we're going to see more of these guys in the future. And to me, that had the quality, and the crowd was so into it. It felt like a final, even though it was only a quarterfinal. But in the first serve points won, they were very, very similar in the 60s, 64, and 63%. On the second serve, Alcaraz, that's really where he differentiated himself and won 65% to Jannik Sinner's 51%. So I think that's, again, it goes to show Jannik Sinner on the first serve, that's really where he does really, really well. Sometimes in those rallies on the second serve, Alcaraz was able to take advantage. And that ultimately was the difference maker. Sinner stole 2 tie breaks, but still lost in 5 sets, even though he was up 2-1. But that was, again, very high quality tennis there. Tiafoe, Matt, did you hear much about Tiafoe? I know he beat your guy Nadal. Did you hear much about that?
Yeah, he was playing well. I think he was obviously the last American in. And yeah, America I mean, it's the U.S. Open. We had more Americans in there than usual, and
Yeah.
we did really poorly. I think Tiafoe was one of like 2 maybe that made it to the second week. Not great, but
Yeah, there wasn't a ton.
No, but he played fantastic against Rafa and played good tennis against Alcaraz too, but ultimately fell. Let's see. You can.
Yeah, I'm looking up some stats real quick on that. I know I definitely want to look at that one there. It was still amazing too. Tiafoe was able to beat Rublev, who he's had troubles with in the past, and not only beat him, but beat him in straight sets. It was pretty amazing to see. And Rublev, I didn't feel like played that badly. Tiafoe just really raised his game. But I wanted to look real quick at the to your point, Nadal. When I looked at the stats, they looked very, very close. It looked like it just came down to a few break points here and there, but they looked very competitive. I think Nadal even won a few more points. I'm trying to look it up here. Here we go. So Tiafoe won in 4 sets. Interestingly, no tie breaks as well, which is sometimes in a tight match, you can kind of steal it with some tie breaks. But even then, with the serve factor, because both guys served, even percentage is almost identical. 76% for Tiafoe for first serve points. Nadal 74. Second serve, they swap. Tiafoe won 65% of his second serve to Nadal 60.
I'm going to have to. You can keep talking. I'm sorry to interrupt this, but I got to take care of something super fast.
No worries.
So keep going. I'll be right back.
Okay.
The doors are on. It's 10.
So for Tiafoe against Nadal, he was able to really take advantage of these break points. So it looks like he converted 5 of 8 to Nadal's 2 of 6. Overall, Tiafoe won 120 points to Nadal's 110. And he had 18 aces to Nadal's 9, but Nadal did have 9 double faults. So it looked like he was just really able to take advantage, even though it's a super tight match where the numbers were so close, razor thin, and really just kind of exchanged 6 4s, 6 3s sets. But even just from watching, it was just amazing that the big shots that he was coming at Nadal with. He was not backing down. He was playing very aggressive, and he took his chances, and he played very well. It was surprising to see Tiafoe play that well and not to play passive, and he kind of played that way throughout, which was pretty awesome to watch. If we move on to Medvedev and Kyrgios. Again, Medvedev just can't seem to figure out Kyrgios, especially on the hard court. It's kind of a bummer, but Kyrgios just played like dynamite. He won 62% points at the net, did a lot of serve volleying, went to the net 47 times in 4 sets. He had 53 winners to, actually Medvedev 49 winners. It's still quite a bit. Overall, Nick won 9 more points, 128 points to 118. And both guys, they did ace quite a bit. Medvedev actually out-aced Kyrgios, 22-21. So it's pretty surprising that Nick was able to win in the fashion that he did. 7-6, 3-6, 6-3, 6-2. So it looks like a lot of the numbers here are pretty tight. Winning on second serve points. Looks like that's the difference for Kyrgios. I wouldn't have guessed that Kyrgios would have won more points on second serve, 46-44. And on first serve, they were identical at 75%. So really, it looks like to me, it came down to the break points because they look pretty identical here on their percentages. The net points, the break points were 5 of 7 for Kyrgios, 71% to Medvedev's 3 of 8, 38%. So Medvedev, I don't know whatever it is, but that was a close one that he couldn't figure out, couldn't solve the Nick Kyrgios puzzle there, and couldn't get the break, what it looks like.
man.
Hey, good?
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's fine. We'll be able to edit all that out.
My son. Okay.
No worries.
All right.
Let's see. I think we basically just need to wrap. I just talked about Medvedev and Kyrgios. Yeah, I'll just do my final thoughts and then you can do some final thoughts. So one last thing I wanted to look at. So for the match insights with Watson, the Watson computer, this is the before the final happened. They only gave Alcaraz a 52% chance to win, probability to win over Ruud, which I thought was pretty interesting. That's what Watson, almost a coin toss basically between the two guys, which I guess sort of makes sense, but I would have, based on the head-to-head especially, I would have given more of an edge to Alcaraz, expected to be 60% maybe. So some of the factors it said, since June 2022, Alcaraz had a 51% edge in the power index based on his recent finals appearances at the German and Croatian Open and also online media coverage. Media coverage is kind of shit. And then Alcaraz has beaten Ruud twice in their head-to-head history at the 2022 Masters 1000 in Miami, right, winning that final, the other hardcourt final that they faced off in, and the 2021 Marbella Tennis Open, which I believe was on clay. Alcaraz is an ATP rank that is 3 positions higher than Ruud. So that's what it said, what the factors were. It looks like it gave the fans, it didn't give a number, but it looks like it was just above Watson. I would guess somewhere around 55% to 51. So the fans predicted Alcaraz had a slightly more higher probability to win the match. So just kind of interesting. And the other thing that this reminds us as well is Alcaraz is actually a quarterfinalist at the U.S. Open. I kind of forgot about this in 2021. He beat Tsitsipas in a 5-setter that I don't remember if that was the 4th round, but it was in one of those earlier rounds. Totally upset Tsitsipas. That's what got me opened my eyes to Alcaraz when I first kind of realized who he was and his gameplay, because he played fantastic. I think it was even a 5th set tiebreaker. And Casper Ruud became the first Norwegian to reach the last 8 of the U.S. Open. We'll look at Watson has a couple stats here real quick, which I thought were pretty interesting. So through the semifinals, Casper Ruud won 70% of points while serving, which is 6th among the 128 competitors. So he does really well taking care of his serve. And Alcaraz, on the meanwhile, is probably better at returning. It says he has a 44%. He wins 44% of points while returning, ranked for 4th best in the field of 128. And Alcaraz has won 11% of his points with forehand winners, 6th among players in the field. That's the other thing. Watching him, the dude's going for winner after winner. It's pretty amazing. He came to net 16% of the time, ranked 10th in the field. So you think about some of the people that serve and volley a little bit more. You know, he's kind of just right behind some of those guys, ranked 10th for coming to net a lot. He won 18% of points with winners compared to Ruud's 14%. That's a pretty high winner rate. Even for Ruud's is pretty high as well, 14%. And Alcaraz won 4% of points with backhand winners versus 3% for Ruud. Ruud lost 4% of points with backhand errors versus 5% for Alcaraz. And Ruud has made 65% of his errors from the forehand. And he has won 40% of points while returning. So not a huge difference from the 44% of Alcaraz. But again, in tennis, 4% that can be huge over the course of the match. So I just thought those were interesting stats, kind of comparing them both. But really, at the end of the day, Watson kind of gave it a coin toss, which I guess the final ended up being tighter. But Alcaraz still got the job done. So I thought those were pretty interesting. Long story short, Matt, I think we're going to see a lot more of Alcaraz. Obviously, you know, assuming he's healthy, he's only 19. He can improve on a lot of things for sure, but I think he'll also keep getting better. And I think he can be good on most surfaces. He's definitely great on clay, definitely great on hardcourt. Grass, I'm not really sure. I think he lost to Sinner in the 4th round, I think, this year. So I don't think he has maybe as much of the natural game on grass. Even though he's got great hands, I think it's more the movement. So we'll see if he can figure that out. But I think he can be great on all surfaces for many, many years to come. And Casper as well is pretty young. He's 23 or 24. So
Yeah, 23.
yeah, so his game is big, and he's still pretty young, so I think he can have a few really good years. Who else is out there? Yannick Sinner is very young too. I don't remember if he's 21 or so, but he's pretty young. He's got a lot of good years left. We'll see if Tsitsipas, is he? I feel like this year was definitely not as good as last statistically and his results. So we'll see if Tsitsipas can win a slam or if he's peaked, and if Medvedev can add more titles. I feel like with his talent, he should definitely be adding more titles to his count. But I think that's about what we have today at 15:30. As always, please share our podcast with a friend that enjoys tennis. Visit us at cognitionsphere.com. Theme music brought to us by Kevin MacLeod with excerpts from his song Cool Rock. And until next time, we'll see you on the court. Oh, did you have anything, Matt? You disappeared for a second.
I know. I accidentally hit back. I'm so sorry. I'm a mess tonight. No, I think you covered everything.
Okay. I was going to say, I could throw yours in there because you left. I'm like, well, maybe he had to go again, so I'll just wrap.
No, yeah, you're good.
No worries. Well, let's try to do a Federer one here soon. It'd be good even like, let's see. I'm going to Europe for 2 weeks, so I don't know if we can record this week. It'd be cool to do it during Labor Cup. Worst case, we'll do it when I get back. But
okay, we're all in Europe. You going?
We're just doing Greece. We're going to go to Athens, and then we'll hit a couple islands.
Sweet.
That's awesome. I'm excited. I've never been to Europe, so I'm pretty excited.
It's a neat experience. My in-laws were living in Paris for a little bit, and so we got to go visit them and went all over the place. It's
nice.
It's cool.
Where all did you go?
So they were in Paris, so we started there, and then we went over to Vienna for a day, and then drove down into Slovenia. So kind of random, but Slovenia is like absolutely beautiful.
Really?
It was cool. Yeah, it was really, really cool. We wish we'd spent more time there, but we did not.
Yeah. So, I've heard Vienna is pretty cool too.
Yeah, Vienna was fun. We didn't have enough time, and my wife's mother is like, she's gonna pack everything in that she can.
Yeah.
And so like it's cool. We went to a lot of different places, but I'm like, well, we've got kids. It's easier if we just like kind of make a home base and really explore what we can. But it was still really cool. It was definitely worth it. So I've heard Greece is fantastic. You'll love it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, my wife, she's done so much because her family, like they go travel to like France and England like every other year. Because like they have family. I think my wife's in-laws or my wife's family, they have family over there. And then my father-in-law, he served his mission in England. So they always go back to the same places in England and France. Awesome. So, but my wife's done like a lot of stuff in Europe, but she's never been to Greece. Because at first we're like, oh, let's do England or Italy or somewhere. But she's like, let's experience somewhere new together. So it'll be fun. Get some warm weather. Because I think we're going to do some of the southern islands like Crete and stuff that should be warm still. So hopefully.
Is it just y'all two going?
Just us two. So I think it'll be the longest trip besides like, no, I don't even think I've gone for backpacking for 2 weeks. It's probably like the longest I've been away from home, probably besides like college or the mission. So
yeah, right.
It's a long trip. So it should be fun.
Sweet. Well, I don't know what the time difference is. It's probably pretty significant, but I mean we can try. If you
or we can do it before.
Or we can do before. Yeah, I don't know
when you leave. Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. Okay. So I don't know if you have time to record. What days are good for you? You said not Wednesday or Thursday?
So this Thursday, yeah. Well, so tomorrow I've got my presidency meeting. This Thursday I've got my daughter's birthday. Okay. But other than that, I'm pretty free.
Yeah, I can do Saturday. I mean, Saturday or Sunday I usually don't do, but my wife's schedule changed. So I could do Saturday or Sunday. I don't know if you got family stuff going on, but
I can make it work 30 minutes or something.
Okay. Yeah, we can just do a short. I mean, the biggest thing is just prepping. If you have time during the week, we can just prep a better one. Just either like most memorable matches or stats or just interesting stuff. I read one that was like comparing his best seasons. People were debating like, well, it's 2005 or 2007, even though he like won 3 slams that one year and 2 the other, but like based on win percentage. So we could like do something like that. But got to commemorate Fed, man. my
You've
favorite,
got to.
and he's gone. So I think 2017. If I had to pick a year, because it was just so fun, he was just winning slam. He won 2
Right.
slams that year, but they were totally unexpected.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I was gonna say it's one of his comeback years.
yeah, that was pretty fun. 2012 was also pretty good. The Olympics, won silver, and then he beat Murray at Wimbledon. That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
2012 was good. Yeah, I don't know. So we'll have to figure it out.
Cool.
But, okay, well, thanks for recording, and yeah, let's do a Federer one soon.
All right. Sounds good, man.
All right, peace.
See ya.